Today we're going to go back to our roots and take some inspiration and creativity to make something our own. Hi everyone, I am Chris and this is Simply Classic. Today I want to show you something that I got inspired by several months ago when I was in New York. We went up there with a group of ladies to do some shopping, and one of them had this gorgeous bag with chain detail on it. And the chain was kind of weaved onto the bag on the strap connectors with some leather or faux leather pieces. And I tried to find a picture of it online to kind of show you where the inspiration came from, and honestly I wasn't able to find anything. So I had to go from memory. I didn't take a picture, I'm not really sure why, but this is basically what it looks like. And so the actual strap connector is the place where her detail was on her bag. So I'm going to show you how to do this today. I'm also going to show you how to do this continuous handle. I didn't want to put any kind of strap, D-ring, O-ring, rectangle ring, because I wanted to make sure this was continuous. I felt like some kind of connector here would take away from that chain detail. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You have to fold the strap a little bit differently. And then I have 4 different types of chain right now in stock. And so I'm going to show you samples of all of those close up. We're going to move to the table. Let's get going on it. Okay, I want to bring you through this entire process so you can see exactly how you need to make the strap, how you need to make your template for your chain, and then also how I threaded the chain or the faux leather through the chain. So here is a close-up of one of the other chains that I have. And I have this in the silver color and also in this, it's kind of a gunmetal color. It's a little bit different than the silver. For the threading, I just used 1/4 inch leather that you can get at Michael's or Joann's. A lot of times you can find it in the jewelry section, and I just buy it by the spool. They have it in lots of different colors. The back of this, when you're through, looks like this. Okay, and the very first, and let me show you a close-up of this too. Here is the bag that I did. And this is a little bit different chain. I'd say it's a, it's kind of a gunmetal bronze color. I actually used my bronze tag and I think it looked fine with it. And you can see it's a little bit different shape. I think it's real pretty. Okay, so let's start with how to do these handles, these continuous handles. So you're going to start out by cutting a 4 inch by however long you want your strap to be piece. Now, when you measure this, your formula is going to be the drop. So from your shoulder to the top of the bag, let's say you want that to be 12 inches. You're going to double it. So it'll be 24 inches. And then you need to add however long, whatever pattern you're using, however long this here is. You need to add that twice because you have it for this side of the strap and then you're going to have it for this side of the strap here. So in my case, I have a 12 inch drop. This here measures, let's see, it's about 7 inches. So I cut 24 inches plus another 14, 7 for this side and 7 for this side, and that equals 38. So I cut my actual strap piece 4 by 38. Then from here, what you're going to do is whatever this section was here, you want to take off 1 inch. So we're going to use, this was 7 inches, so we're going to use 6 inches. And you're actually going to cut out, I'm going to start by drawing it in first, 1 by 6 inch piece or sections on each side. So I'm going to use a ballpoint pen here so you can see it. Okay, I'm going to do just like that. So this is, in this case, this would be 6 inches for this bag here. Okay, and you're going to do that on all 4 corners so that when you're done, you end up having something that looks like this. Now, in this example, I'm not doing 6 inches because it's such a small piece. We're just going to pretend this is the full 38-inch piece. Once you mark this, you want to go ahead and cut out these sections. So you end up with something that looks like this. Now comes the fun part. What I did was I took some 1/4 inch double-sided tape. Well, before I even did that, I drew a line so that I knew exactly where to put my tape. So I lined my ruler up with these 2 cut sections, and I just drew a line here, and then I drew a line here. Okay. Then in this section here, I went right down the middle, just as if it were a full strap. So this is a 2-inch piece, and that's what you'll end up with, is you'll end up with 2 inches here, 2 inches here, and 4 inches here in the middle. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch. Now, if you want your strap to be 1.5 inches wide instead of 1 inch wide, your formula is going to be, this will be 6 inches instead of 4, and then you're going to cut 1.5 inches out of each corner. Okay, from here you're going to take your double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it right below this line. So just like this. Okay, I'll do that on both sides. And then I'm going to also put a piece of double-sided tape, and this time I'm going to use 1/2 inch because I want to make sure I have enough for everything to stick to, my sides to stick to. I'm going to put 1/2 inch double-sided tape in this section. Okay, so here is what we have. So the first thing I'm going to do is fold these sections up to the line. So I'm just going to fold that. And then fold this part up like this. Okay, then you want to go ahead and fold these in just as if it were a separate strap connector. So I'm just going to fold that like that. Fold this in. And then you're going to just kind of, I didn't put any double-sided tape for this. All I did was put some clips in to hold this section here. Okay, so this is what we have so far. So then you want to go ahead and fold in the other side, and then this side of your strap is going to meet this side. Just like that. Okay, so now what you have from the front, it's a continuous strip, and from the back, this is what you're going to sew to your bag. Now, I told you to make it 1 inch shorter because you do want to sew up. When you sew this, you're going to sew, when you place it on your bag, you want to make sure you come up beyond this fold mark here a little bit, about 1 inch, and you're going to come down and go around. Okay, so on this bag here, and it's probably hard to see because it's not a real apparent thing, but that fold mark is right here on this bag. So I went up about 1 inch beyond. And then the rest of it is just a double-sided strap, just like normal, just like what we're used to. But you don't have, in this part of the bag, you're not going to have that thickness of 4 pieces of strap, because we know that can get really cumbersome and heavy. And then, of course, we're going to be punching things, we're going to punch holes through. We don't want that to be super thick. Okay, so what I would do from this point is I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to stitch. I'm not going to stitch this part yet. I'm going to stitch, measure up 1 inch here, and mark it with my, I can see where that is, mark it with my pen. Okay, it's right about here. And then I am just going to stitch each side, stopping at this mark. I'm going to pull my threads through, tie them off. When I stitch this on the bag is when I'm going to come up and then stitch across this mark and then come down. Now, you could do a lot of different things here. If you wanted to, you could go across, and then when you come up this way, maybe come down about 1/2 inch and go across, and then maybe put a rivet in between here, or just have a double line. I think that would be really pretty, or even just try to go right on top of your existing stitches. So however you want to do it. What I did was I stitched these 2 first, then when I stitched to the bag, I went across here and just made sure I started and stopped in the holes where I actually stitched my 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so we are going to pretend that that's stitched and that's ready to go. Now we want to go ahead and put our chain on. So I want to show you how to make a template for this, and I want to show you how easy it is to cut the chain. So the chain is going to come in a long section, however long you decide you're going to order. And what I did was put this on the strap to see exactly how many lengths of chain I wanted. Now, make sure you don't put your chain all the way down to the bottom, because you're going to need room to sew this on. So you see here, I didn't come all the way to the bottom. I actually left a little bit of space there so that when I sewed the overlay on, my chain wasn't in the way of the overlay. Okay, so I left it about 1 inch up. So in this case, I think I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 links. I think that will be about right. Could do 7. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's do 7. I think 7 will give me enough to sew below here and also sew up here. So to cut this, it's literally this easy. You just twist it. You can make a liar out of me. And it just comes apart, okay? Because you have like this little hook on there. And then I wanted to obviously get rid of these little hooks that, like, part of the hook stays on there. Can you see that? That little tiny piece there. And all I did was took a piece of plier, or a set of pliers, and just pulled that off. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing at the top because I don't want that hook on there. Okay, so now I have nice clean chain. So the next thing you want to do is make a template. You could mark it while it's on your actual strap. I actually made a paper template so that I could take each piece or each template and put it on this side of the strap, mark it, put it on this side, and do the same thing with my other handle. So to do that, I cut a piece of paper 1 inch wide by as long as my actual chain. And you can see here, I didn't cut that quite big enough, so let me get another piece. Okay, that's perfect. And I want to leave some space at the bottom, which I know. And I want it to make sure that it goes up to about the top, because when I'm through with my template, I'm going to line my template up at the bottom, and then I'm just going to mark all my holes. So this is how easy it is to make a template. I just laid it right here on the piece of paper, centered it, and this doesn't have to be perfect, y'all. That's the thing about this, is that as you thread this through, you know, this chain's going to move around a little bit as you're doing it, and it doesn't have to be exactly 100% in the middle. You're not going to be able to tell if it's off 1/8 of an inch. So from here, I just mark the center, where the center of each ring is, with just a little dot. Now, the reason why I'm not providing templates with the chain is because depending on the pattern you use, you could have 20, or maybe not 20, but you might have 10 lengths of chain. You might have 6 lengths of chain. You might want to do something totally different, and instead of doing it in this manner, you might want to take a piece of chain and maybe put it on a bag going in this direction. Maybe around the top or around the bottom or crisscross, or however you want to do it. Y'all are very creative, and I can't wait to see what you come up with. So that's as easy as, that's how you make a template. It's literally that easy. So now I'm just going to take my awl, and I'm just going to punch little holes right where all my little dots are. Just like this. Okay, easy peasy. So now I'm going to take my template, I'm going to put it on my strap, and I am going to go ahead and clip it just so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to take my silver marking pen and just put a little mark on every dot. Okay. And there you can see all my little dots. Now on this bag here, I actually did all my threading, and then I sewed it to the bag using a zipper foot. And I just came down 1/8 of an inch with that zipper foot. This chain here is a little bit wider. The circle is wider than this one here. So you could do one of two things. You could make your strap 1.5 inches like we talked about a minute ago, or you could actually sew this to the bag first, and then when you do your threading, you're going to thread through the strap and the main part of the bag. Now, of course, when you do this, you're going to do it before you sew the bottom on and you sew anything else together. But it would be a way to hold the strap on, and honestly, you could almost do that and not have to sew it. You could almost use that as your method of attaching it to the bag. So that's another idea. Okay, so now that I have this done, I'm going to use my hole punch. Now, if you're going to use 1/4 inch leather, like I have here, you're going to want to use the 4th largest hole punch, or the 4th largest, I guess, hole punch on your rotary punch. These two were too small. This one was okay, but this one worked perfect for me. So, because you're having to go through the hole twice. So, and these holes don't have to be perfect. If one is not exactly lined up with the other one across from it, it's okay. So I'm just going to go through and punch these holes. Now in this top one, I'm going through 4 layers because remember, I cut this a little bit, cut my little sections out a little bit shorter, about 1 inch shorter than how the length of my actual strap connector part of this. Got lots of dots here. Let me get them out. Okay. So come across. Now I'm going to show you the threading pattern that I used, but you could use whatever you want. You could skip a link. You could go through each link more than once, especially with these that have the larger holes. You guys come up with your own method and post it on the Facebook group so that we can see it, because everybody wants to have different inspiration, and I think it's a great thing. If you're not a member of the Facebook group, you need to go ahead and join. There are some awesome bag makers in that group. It's amazing what they create. Just amazing. Okay, so here I have now my holes. And here's my chain. You can see it's gonna match up pretty darn good. So when you cut your piece here, now let me say that, you know, again, I'm using this 1/4 inch leather. You could use like an embroidery floss, and in that case you want to make your hole smaller. You could use some kind of like yarn or rope, maybe like a sisal rope. I mean, you can do so many different things, you know, to thread this through. So again, y'all, be creative, and I'm anxious to see what you come up with. So when I cut this, I'm going to cut it. You don't want to cut it the exact size because you're threading through and you're going to have, you're going to need extra for the take up. So what I'm going to do is maybe go about, you know, leave maybe about double. So whatever I need for this strip here, I'm going to about double it. And then for this side, I'm going to do the same thing, about double it. You'd rather have a little bit too much here than not enough. Okay, so we're done with that. So from here, the way I started it is I came through the back first. And you're going to need your awl handy because you may have to use it to kind of push through. I'm going to make sure these are about even. It's pretty close. And in the beginning, it's a little fiddly, but I'm just going to come up the center of the first hole, or the first chain, first link, and then go back down through that same hole. Now, in my opinion, the chain is what is so beautiful here, and I really wanted to be very minimal in the actual threading material that I used, because I wanted the chain to kind of stand out by itself. But you could, you know, you could crisscross on this chain. You could, again, you can come up with so many different things. I know y'all are going to be very creative. Then in the back, I'm just going to come back up through that same hole, or excuse me, the next hole, and come up through the center of the chain, or the next link. Make sure I pull it tight. Same thing on this side. And I do recommend you do one link at a time, not one side at a time, because you don't want to pull this too much in one direction or the other. Otherwise, you're going to, like if you were to do this whole side first, then when you went to go to do this side, it may not be centered. Thread this down through. And I just make sure that I'm not twisted, which I am right there. It's okay if it's twisted in the back. You may have to twist it in the back. You just don't want it twisted on the front. Okay. And then you get the idea. We're just going to go all the way down until we reach the very bottom link here. All the way down. Okay, everything is done on this one. Have it all threaded through. You want to make sure things are in the middle and everything is exactly lined up the way you want it. And when you're through, you're going to have these tails down here. So the way I dealt with those is I just literally take it to the machine and stitch right here and stitch those down. That's going to be underneath your overlay, so you're not going to see it, and it ensures that the pieces of whatever you're using to thread this through isn't not going to come out. So you can see, I think right there, how I just stitched that down. Then from here, you would place this on the bag, like we talked about. Use your zipper foot. You will sew up this edge across your line, back down this edge. I added a rivet just because I thought it was a neat way to kind of finish it off, but you certainly don't need to do that. This would be beautiful on its own. And then you just continue with the bag. You lay your overlay down and you finish it up, and you have this gorgeous detail. Okay, one more sample to show you. This is more of a traditional chain. This is what we see a lot of times in bags. And, you know, sometimes they'll actually take some faux leather and thread it through and use it as a strap or something. But what I did with this is, instead of using some faux leather to put it on, I actually used the Tex 70 thread that I used in my machine, and I just quadrupled it so it was nice and thick. Made my holes, and then just went ahead and sewed that on. So you can hardly even see the thread on that. It really changes the look of it. You don't see the you know, larger pieces of faux leather like you do on this one. I mean, it's just very minimalist. So I think it would be really neat to take some of this chain, maybe thread some faux leather through it, because this 1/4 inch faux leather would be perfect with it. You'd have to go up and down. It would take a little while. This is probably something you'd want to do when you're watching TV. But you could certainly do it. And then take a piece of the chain and use it on your strap oops, just took that right off. Use it on your strap connectors, and so you'd have it in a couple different places as decorative elements, and I really think that would be pretty. It would also be really pretty, see, my mind goes when I start doing these videos, is to take the faux leather and actually thread it through the chain, right? And then sew it onto the strap. That would be pretty. So, yeah, that would be really pretty. Look at how that looks. So this is the brown faux leather, but see how it threads right through there? And then if you sew that right onto especially if you use thread to do it instead of faux leather, that would be really pretty. And especially if you used a different color. Ooh, that would be even prettier. Okay, so y'all see where I'm going with this. Get creative. I hope you found some inspiration in this video today. One thing I wanted to mention is that any pattern that you have with some kind of bottom overlay will work. I know there's plenty of them out there. This is a pattern, actually it's a prototype. I'm working on a new pattern for y'all. It's going to have a lot more detail than this. Not necessarily with this strap connector, but as far as the shape and all, anyway, I'm working on it, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, until next time, happy sewing.